MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is Thursday, midday, a couple of days before the Super Bowl. Waste management, or as the OGs call it, Phoenix Open underway. And my dad was one of those keep quiet people at the Phoenix Open one time. I think he still has the little sign that says quiet on it.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be a good little job. I'm Guy. That's John. Welcome. If you are watching this on YouTube, great. If you're live, great. If you're not live, great. That's the internet. Who cares? Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Check out our podcast down in the description below. If you're listening to the podcast, all right. Check out the YouTube in the description of the podcast.
Check out our TikToks.
All proceeds benefit Russell Wilson's foundation.
I need to get on the board. I want to get on the board.
Highly desirable job. Highly desirable.
Pays well, guy.
Pays well. Man, where do we begin?
Let me just
looking fresh, by the way. Did you get an IV today?
Yesterday, and honestly, I feel remarkable. One thing, I slammed a lot of beers the last couple days. No cocktails, just because sometimes God love the Tito's, but you can end up drinking. I can go from 2 to 10 quick. So with beers, you wake up, you don't feel as it just doesn't get away from me. But can I read this line by Josh Jacobs?
Yes.
Raiders running back Josh Jacobs told us he'd be okay playing on the franchise tag, but only if the team loaded up at all the other positions and added players around him.
Yeah.
But if you want me to come back as a hero, you better pay me like a hero. What a line.
It's such a good line.
What a line.
What do you think what makes him a hero in his mind? Just that he comes back, he's saving the Raiders? Is that what he thinks?
Well, like, without me trucking dudes and running the ball, we got no shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw it. You ain't blocking for me. I'm fucking making guys miss, jumping over guys, running around guys, breaking tackles.
At this point, his quarterback's Jarrett Stidham.
The problem, I think, for him, if Josh Jacobs was a wide receiver or a defensive tackle, you'd be like, you got to franchise tag him. The market, he's going to get paid. Like, if Josh Jacobs was the equivalent of a pass rushing defensive tackle, you'd be like, is he getting $70 million guaranteed? But he's a running back. Like, people would be very interested in him. But, 1 year, $15 million,
What is the running back tag this year?
I think it's like 10. Whew. A little lower than the tight end tag, but I couldn't pay Josh Jacobs a 3-year contract.
It's tough because I guess you have Devontae, you have Crosby, you have some good leadership, but
it's like Christian McCaffrey's contract. If I told you he was a free agent, I wouldn't feel good about the Niners giving him the contract that he's on. But once you acquire it and you look at it, you just get out of it whenever, right? It's much easier once you have the contract that you didn't have to pay those first couple years, right?
Yeah. Because
you give an enormous signing bonus. If you give a guy $40, $45 million and then he starts getting hurt, you just look at it differently. Because Josh Jacobs is easily one of the best running backs in the league, but he does get hurt a lot. But he's sweet. All these other positions, it wouldn't bother you, right?
Well, also, if they don't get Aaron Rodgers or that type of quarterback, if they have Jarrett Stidham or Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever,
draft a rookie,
they need Josh Jacobs to win football games.
Yeah. I think he'll be on the Raiders next year, but I bet if I was the Raiders, I would just tag him. I'm not paying him.
Tag him and then give him a 2-year.
But I don't think he'd sign that,
Yeah, you're right. He wouldn't sign 2 for 25?
I mean, no chance, I think. Even though it's probably
a good business deal off the books. Like the Aces.
I don't think Mark Davis guy gets enough credit for the attacking the gender equity gap in America. He should be celebrated. He should be celebrated. Taking care of women, paying them under the table.
Owners don't like that. Joe Smith, wasn't that the guy?
I'd say it's different in the NBA because everyone's making so much money. He's just, giving Kelsey or whoever a couple hundred G's under the table.
Oh, Kelsey Plum. Yeah, Kelsey Plum.
Shouldn't that be celebrated? I mean, the WNBA, I mean, guy, they're flying with us in Southwest. Mark Davis is trying to take care of them.
Mark's like, Southwest, good enough for me. John, let's tell the people about our friends at DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 57. I heard Gronk. Who did I hear get it wrong the other day? Oh,
what do you call it? Like
Travis
48?
Kelce. Travis Kelce on his podcast was like Super Bowl 56, and then Jason grilled him on Roman numerals, and Travis didn't get it right. Their podcast with their mom and their dad is really good, by the way.
I'll check it out.
All the Super Bowl action is at DraftKings. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly, John. Instantly.
Yep. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm personally going to hammer the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
Kansas City Chiefs. Plus 1.5. I mean, you just get Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. But obviously, it's not just football. You know, if you want to get a little live waste management, we have the NCAA tournaments. That's March Madness. I mean, we're in early February. Can't be that far away. So you got, then March Madness, the Derby, the Masters, a lot of gambling coming up. Obviously, start with the Super Bowl, get your bankroll going, $5 and get $200 in instant bonus instantly. Hard to beat.
21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Bonus issued as bonus bets. Opt-in required for odds boost. Bet type and amount varies. Limits vary. Eligibility and terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms. Should we do our picks here off the top before we dive into some other things?
Yeah, why not?
So I was going to put it. I thought you were going to say the Eagles. Bad news. We agree. And for the same logic, I think, and I told you this Monday or Tuesday, like you start thinking 10 years from now, when you look back, are you going to say, I didn't take Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in points against Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, who's a very good quarterback, but is Nick Sirianni the coach in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years?
Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and lasted like 2 more years.
It happens, though, right? Sometimes it just happens. The Eagles that year had Nick Foles, and they won. They beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. If you had bet on the Patriots that year, you'd say, I can live with myself. And that's how I feel this week. I can live with myself. I also think you're getting 1.5. Like, to me, the Chiefs are, even if they were to losing by 1.5 is more likely to me than them losing by double 7 or 10. So just getting points with the Chiefs. Here's the other thing. The Chiefs are, what are they right now? Plus 105 money line.
Yeah. To me, that's the bet.
Which that's
the bet. To me, if the line, I think the only thing that would make you nervous, I don't think they could beat this Eagles team with him limping around like he did against the Bengals, because it was pretty noticeable. I think it's much more likely he looks dramatically better 2 weeks removed from that, with the amount of work. My guy Rick Burkholder, the trainer, but Pat even like tweeted out a pic after the game 2 weeks ago of like the woman who said like she was the reason, and they gave her a bunch of credit. I'm massaging, ice baths, cold baths, doing who knows what to that thing. Do you agree? Like, I would not, if I thought I was getting that version of the limp version, I wouldn't feel as confident, but I think I'm getting a much more mobile. Now, I'm not expecting 100%, but we've seen a lot of high ankle sprains in our life as sports fans, and clearly they're bad. I think it's safe to say he's tough, and I give him a lot of credit for his severity was playable, right? Most guys, like, they can't play. You can't move. So he had a better one, and you would think in 2 weeks. I've seen some videos of him at practice. Looks pretty spry.
Yeah.
The other thing is no boot or anything, him going to these events, right, from the media day and stuff. My bet is I'm confident that his health is going to be much more mobile than the guy that we saw against the Bengals, which it took a fucking miracle, for them. Now the Bengals are, you probably argue they're every bit of the equal of these two teams. I mean, they are, right? If you do the power rankings, removing Purdy, the Bengals are damn good. So that's very impressive to win like that.
Neither quarterback's 100% in this game, right? Jalen Hurts is also not 100%. And I think the D'Amico, for all the talk of Niners offensive guys, all the talk has been Niners offensive guys talking about how we had the game plan to beat them. Specifically, I guess, Debo and Ayuk. But the game plan to me that really stood out was the defensive game plan, was D'Amico Ryan's game plan. We are not going to pressure and we're going to make them throw the football to beat us. And unlike I shouldn't say unlike the Niners, the Chiefs, we know, have an ability to get up like a 10-0 like that. Niners have done that too. To me, that is part of the key to the game. Like if the Chiefs can get up 7-9, 10-0, and now Philly does have to throw the football, then I think Kansas City's real. I mean, obviously they'd be in great shape, but the other one I saw the prop I like is Travis Kelce over 7.5 receptions. Like Kelce against the Eagles linebackers or whoever he ends up matched up against with everybody else. I know some of these guys are getting healthy, some are not, but to me, it's kind of a Travis Kelce play against his brother, national stage. Let's just feed the big dog.
One thing I think that's unique, right, is the 49ers, because, I mean, they stole the Niners or the Chiefs' best corner last year. They had a guy that's, was a fringe Pro Bowl level corner to go up against A.J. Brown, and he's big. The Chiefs, part of their quarterback being hurt, Jalen Hurts, they are rolling out potentially like 3 to 4 rookies in the defensive backfield against, what could be the best 1-2 combination. It was when their quarterback was healthy, right? In, Devontae and A.J. Brown. Like that is, I think the Eagles would go, that's advantage us. A bunch of rookies. Now they've been good. Watson and Cook and McDuffie's now back. He was injured earlier in the season, but I would imagine AJ and Devontae are just saying, just get me the ball because I will fucking be open. And that's if Jalen was hurt, that would be a pretty big advantage, I think, for the Eagles. But, last week or 2 weeks ago for the Niners, balls were just off. I mean, that deep ball that he threw to A.J. Brown down the sideline, I mean, that was a Jimmy level miss. I mean, he missed him by a good. It wasn't like, he just outstretched at the end. Like that was a 5-yard, like AJ could have leaped like Kevin Garnett up there when they got close to the ball. It was because at first, when the camera pans, you're like, oh my God, he's kind of open.
Sure.
and then the ball just keeps sailing. That happened a lot in the Jimmy Garoppolo era of just like, oh, he's wide on. No.
Then they showed the replay and it was just a straight beat. Like AJ Brown just beat Mooney Ward on the play. And how many times?
That's a classic, like on the couch fan. Like, why is he squatting? Like, that's tough. Yeah. Just I don't know what the right or wrong answer is. I just know like there's probably 20 guys in the NFL now. I would say the receiver position's never been deeper. Like, I don't know. This guy could fucking be running ins, outs. We've done study. I don't know what he's gonna do. You see this guy? I mean, he fucking runs like a goddamn, Kentucky Derby horse. He's enormous. Not an easy guy to check.
No. But, and maybe Jalen's healthier. Maybe he hits that throw Sunday after he missed it 2 weeks ago. I
think the hard part with him is like it really just hasn't been, we just haven't figured out, like, is it just a sore bone bruise that's going to take 2 months of just doing nothing and he's not able to not throw? Or is it something he's going to get surgery on? It's been a little cloak and dagger, I'd say, with his injury, right?
Yeah, which I think is usually the case when you're still playing in season and it's not good. 60% of the money on the Eagles, by the way. People like Philly.
I was talking to our guy Jeff Schwartz last night. He's like, the one thing is just that Eagles pass rush is.
I know.
I mean, they got guys. I mean, that's my thing with Mahomes.
And the Chiefs don't run the football.
No, they don't.
What were you waiting?
Like, I was gonna be like, well, maybe this is the time. It's like, no, he's 64 years old. He's been.
No, when you throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball and a C+ curveball, you don't try to trick anybody with your C+ curveball. You throw your 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Beat my.
You see the clip that went viral, like. Obviously there's a lot of random non-sports reporters going to these like press conferences and they ask Andy like what he puts in his coffee and he laughed like, I don't drink coffee. She's like, well, how do you have? She's like, I'm just the rare chubby guy with a lot of energy. I just get up and go.
He had some good, I guess I saw people liked some burger place he shouted out in LA, like Tommy Boy or something like that.
Yeah.
Tommy's, not Tommy Boy. Andy. What a gem.
A lot of cheeseburger. Me and Schwartz talked a lot about his diet. Like when he's the personal assistant, because I think it started with Holmgren, and all the coaches now in the NFL basically have this, most coaching staffs have the quality control guy, but those guys developed the assistant to the head coach, not like the female assistant that answers the phone, but like he's like an up and coming coach, but he's usually in his mid to late 20s. Brett Veach started that way. Sean McDermott started that way.
Film or whatever.
But you're also like, hey, I need a snack at 10 o'clock at night. You run to 7-Eleven, get him 2 things of Haagen-Dazs coffee, and swing by McDonald's and get 4 cheeseburgers, no pickles.
Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream.
Yeah, but drink
coffee, but he'll eat coffee ice cream.
He'll eat coffee ice cream. Yeah, that was the order. I think 4 cheeseburgers and 2 coffee. That's a snack. But like Jeff,
God. No wonder he's awake. It's sugar.
Yeah, he is a big guy.
Yeah, we've all seen the punt, pass, and kick. I hope they break that out during the Super Bowl.
Do you think he wins this? Has he already solidified himself as a Hall of Famer?
I think he has. I actually kind of think losing the game, I'm not going to say it hurts his legacy, because I don't think it does. But I do think losing, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I don't want to say he's got something to lose, but I think losing a Super Bowl it will be a conversation. Like how many, in the end, if he wins 1 championship with Patrick Mahomes, that will feel like they missed opportunities, Yeah.
It'll be a little Favre Rodgers, like, how's this possible?
Should have been better because we watch you every year and we thought the best, Do
you think he's more likely to win the 1 Super Bowl or 4?
Well, the 1. I mean, the odds are just that it's the 1.
And the AFC is a lot harder than the NFC. Like if I told you the Chiefs next year move to the NFC, would you be like, oh, they're going to host the championship? I mean, they're going to have a decent shot to host it 5 more straight years.
Yeah.
The conference is just hard.
That was one thing. I highly recommend Tom Brady's last podcast from this week. It's funny because it's like Bill and like they don't have anybody managing the Zoom. So like Gronk just pops up like, oh, there's Gronk, but it's not on purpose. And Gronk like has an echo and he's in the car. They kept Gronk. They edited it down after like a minute. They just let Gronk go. They bring in Peyton and Peyton's like, people forget when Tom came into the league, the Colts and the Patriots were in the same division. He's like, thank God they moved us out of when then the Texans came in and they created the AFC North, but they were in the AFC East together. He was like, thank God. But then he said that when he was a free agent leaving Indy, now who knows how true this is, he's like, I had chances to go to the NFC. I mean, that part we know, like Harbaugh wanted him, could have been a Niner. He's like, I felt like I got to beat Tom one way or the other. He didn't say this, but he kind of said, like, I might as well man up and try and do it in the AFC, like stay in the AFC and just go through them there. I
saw the clip where Peyton said that when he watches handshakes of wins and losses against Brady, but he doesn't know the individual game, he always knew if the helmet was on, he had lost. Helmet's off, he won, and wants everyone to see his face. One thing Brady can do,
or no handshake with Foles.
I mean, Brady really is doing it on his podcast because I got news for you. Like, I'm just not going to listen to him and Jim Gray talk.
But they have guests nonstop.
That's what I'm saying. Their ability to land the sweet, like literally, who could he ask that would say no to him? Like, could
nobody?
I mean, if like he'd get Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah,
so
nobody
would
say no.
Michael Jackson, if he was alive, like there's nobody he's not landing. His guest list is unlimited.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is John from the Let's Go podcast. Tom wanted me to hit you. If you need him to send you a text, he says, no problem. He's busy right now with his kids. Could you hop on next week?
Yeah. Oh,
that's Tom Brady.
Welcome to the show. Tom's actually out sick. Guy's filling in. Oh, sorry. I can't make.
Yeah, the show's gonna open with Barack Obama, and then we're gonna get Belichick, and you'll be the 3rd guest on the show.
Yeah,
would that work for you? Yeah, it's Coach Krzyzewski, Tiger, and then we were just seeing Calvin Johnson. Could you make it?
Bill was really good. They were really good together. One thing Bill said, I sent you the clip. Bill was talking about how Tom, like, he made his teammate when they had bad offensive lines against good pass rushes, they just got the ball out quicker. And I was like, oh, that's a novel concept.
Well, do you remember Bill when he hosted the
NFL
the top 100 players. And sometimes they talk, he's like, God, we just really overthink this. You know, we just try to do what we do well against what they do poorly, and what they do well, we try to like somehow mitigate and just neutralize it a little bit and then force them into things they don't do well. This isn't like, it's basic concepts from like war. Like, you don't attack where their strengths are, you attack where their weaknesses are. Like, this is the basic premise of the sport.
He's like, Dwight Freeney was really good, so we got rid of the ball fast so Dwight couldn't get to Tom.
Everyone that's always made fun of Bill always uses like simple things that he says. And everyone's like, oh, this guy's a genius. I think he would probably tell you most of our shit might be some complexity to it. Even Deebo Samuel, I saw, said yesterday, like, we run the same play just out of 700 looks. He's like, we have a go-to pass route. You know, that over route that we love? We can just run it out of literally every formation.
Oh, I know the route, Deebo.
But and just think about it, like, most teams have like the go-to plays. The Chiefs forever with I mean, Kelsey, it feels like, has the little right across the middle sitting in the zone. And then he immediately does left or right, like the quick turnaround, and you miss the tackle and he goes up. They've been doing that for a decade now. Tyreek Hill had goes and posts that they consistently hit, or that like quick screen where they kind of just let him break out. But he's not like, you've been running the same plays with these guys for fucking ever. And for whatever reason, people still don't know what's coming. Obviously, it's harder than that.
Well, I think it's a lot. It's like, I think pitching is a great analogy here, right? Pitchers don't have 8 pitches. Like, the guy with 6 pitches has too many pitches. I've got 3 pitches. You just don't know which one I'm throwing when. And the idea in pitching is kind of similar to football, right? It's going to all look the same coming out of my hand.
Yeah.
But it might be the cutter. It might be the fastball. It might be the changeup. It might be the fastball. That's it. It might be the slider. It might be the fastball. That's it. Like, you think about some of the most dominant pitchers in the history of the sport. They're not 5-pitch guys, right?
Well, how many pitches did
But
like what did Greg Maddux have? A fastball that kind of moved and an off-speed pitch? Like, that's in just location.
Strike zone.
Pedro.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't, the greatest closer of all time literally just kind of throw one pitch?
One pitch. But I guess Bill's thing would be, it's simple. It's different. Even though it's simple, it's different every week, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where in football, like ultimately in baseball, I can locate my pitch, but it's coming out of my hand. In football, I can dress up things like against Jalen Hurts, right? I could have one guy at the line of scrimmage, everyone standing up. Like, you could do all, the Spags. Remember when he took out the Patriots, it was like the amoeba. No one ever see, because he'd have all the defensive ends like lined up, 4 guys on the field at once. Yeah. But ultimately, it's like, I think Bill would say, well, yeah, okay, instead of having a defensive tackle, they put Strahan over the guard. He's still just rushing up the field. Like, the concept is the same once the ball is hiked. It's not like he's going to jump over my guy or, run around to the right. Like, he's still going forward.
Yep.
Just follow your blocking assignment. I think that, there's just an element of surprise in football. Like, part of going back to Ward, that play where Antonio Brown, he's like, well, against that look, we have seen them run an out route, let's just say 80% of the time, or whatever. I'm sure they had scouted it. And the Eagles also, as part of self-scouting yourself, they think you're going to run an out route here. And this is, I think, what people like football so much, that element of like, damn, how'd they get it? And then the way they describe it after, like, we knew he'd sit on the route because that's what we've been doing. So we implemented that on Friday night and it worked. But if it works, great. Everyone's talking about what if Wasp doesn't work, overthrows at the Niners when Peter King never writes that sweet thing, about Wasp.
Post against the holding call.
Yeah. Which, let's get ready for this. They're just not really calling that, which I'm cool with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm cool with letting him play more than blowing the whistle a lot.
I
of
agree.
Stuff in these big games.
I agree. Okay, John, before the Super Bowl, we have to tell our annual radio roast story. If you're new to the show, as many people are in the last year, they may be new. You have not heard probably what started. I don't think it was the first domino necessarily, but one of the reasons we now do a podcast.
Well, it had originally started, I think, during the fall, to be nicer and to be better with your partners, aka the Raiders. So
fall of 2015.
I was already under the microscope about
We
being
worked at a radio station together. We did a radio show together. Let's set it up for the real people.
Yeah.
Pretend that people are brand new.
We had the Raiders on the station,
Yep.
and your boy here did the Raiders post game, and I think that they weren't always happy with me, very passionately, and they were losing a lot, so we were just speaking to the people. I just represented the people, independently. It's not like I grew up some Raider fan. Just watch good football, we'd celebrate it. They lost a lot, and we just had some takes, and I was told to, come back. The new deal was on the horizon, even though at the time, the Raiders and historically don't actually make you that much money. So it was weird. I went to college. I can do the math. It's like, well, what are we doing? This is not the Yankees or the Giants here. Why are we so beholden to something that's not even working?
Yeah.
And we were working. Like our radio show, as I saw the guy that hired us last night at the party, he's like,
Jason
the
Barrett.
beginning of the end, and it might have been an ego stroke, was you guys were crushing it, and they came in and they got rid of one of the foundational building blocks of the station.
JV said that?
Yeah, and the polos. Yeah.
So let's tell the story. So
Fire away.
So the Bay Area hosted the Super Bowl in 2016, and Radio Row,
Broncos Panthers.
Radio Row was in downtown San Francisco. It was basically right across the street from our radio station at the time.
Yeah.
For people that know San Francisco, that's third and what is that? Not Harrison. Whatever it is, Folsom. And the radio station, the boss, made polo shirts with the station logo on it that he wanted everybody to wear.
Your basic Nike black polo shirt with the logo on the logo. Over the chest.
Yeah. And I don't remember how we knew. But
I feel like you were more into like you wanted to dress independent. Not that I was pro the collared shirt. You were adamant you weren't wearing that thing.
Why? Do you remember why?
I think by then we thought the guy was such a loser and had no clue what he was doing. He didn't. But and it was just an easy one. We just refused. But I think no one else was wearing them. I don't know.
Yeah, somehow we knew that like nobody else was going to wear them. And so I don't know why nobody else was going to wear them. I just know that I didn't. When you go to Radio Row, you want to walk around, especially then, you want to like hobnob and meet people and introduce yourself to people and that sort of thing. And I didn't want to be wearing a radio logo polo shirt. Not so much about the logo, but I just thought it was such a sloppy, like classic lazy.
You were anti it more. Again, I was not like nice. Pro wearing. Yeah.
I didn't want to look like you're run of the mill radio guy. I wanted to look. I'm just telling you how I thought. That's how I felt. I'd done years of radio just wearing the polo shirt. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to look good. And
we knew under no circumstance Greg Papa was putting on a polo. So that's...
Well, there was another story from that, right? Didn't Greg have a blow up at that Radio Row?
Yeah, he told the guy to shut the fuck up and get the fuck away from me, I think, verbatim.
So we showed up not wearing the shirts, I think, the first day. And it became an even bigger thing. How dare you guys?
I can't, honestly, it's even talking about it. It's so low level and so stupid. It is so, anyone that's working in corporate America, that's to do dumb things. There is no dumber feeling than like, sometimes you got to be a good team player and there's part of things, like you got to show up to events or whatever. But there's a line always that is like, this is so unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was part of it. It's just, we didn't, there, in other circumstances, we probably would have put them on with no problem. But in this circumstance, we just weren't going to do it.
Well, if Belichick tells you, like, you got to wear the team sweats, you wear the team sweats.
Yeah.
If Freddie Kitchens tells you to wear the team sweats and you've never worn the team sweats and you know that, like, you don't need to wear the team sweats, it's hard to fathom putting on the team sweats.
I don't remember, was this before or after? There was a general area, a bullpen, an area with all open seating where management wanted us to prep for they wanted us to sit there. They cared where we prepared our show. They wanted us in that area.
We used to be in rooms in offices where we would just be ourselves and then
close
go
the door
to
and just talk. Yeah. And we just kept refusing. We just kept going to the offices in the one little office in the office. It was just an empty office. So one day we roll in and they had removed all the desks and computers and put this humongous round like conference table in there that took up the entire little office. There's no room. And they removed the chairs. So we got chairs and we went in there and sat there anyway. So, very passive aggressive and immature. I wouldn't change it for the world. But
we got a little Kyrie, Kevin Durant in us.
That's part of why we're here. Yeah, that's part of why we're here today. It was all great. It worked. We believed that we were doing things and I think we were vindicated. Are being vindicated. Continue. Every day I wake up thinking about it, John. It's what drives me. I'm like Montana thinking about Steve Young.
Yeah, I mean, fuck.
No, I remember it all with joy. So anyway, that was I think we ended up putting on the shirts. We felt like, God, are we just malcontents? We threw the shirts on and
it was a life lesson for me. And I honestly, I mean, I not like I didn't butt heads even when I like worked in the NFL and stuff. Like I'm just not a great, my natural reaction is not just to be the sheep. Like it's always to be like kind of bark back.
Just give me, especially when
it's been like that since I was a little kid with my parents. Like it's ingrained in me. It's I didn't thrive in 2020 and 21. Like I'm not good at being told what to do when I think it's fucking beyond moronic.
Give me a reason.
I have some, like, there are some relatable qualities. I'm not saying I'm them, but like there are parts of Kyrie and Aaron Rodgers every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's not improbable that I would. Now I'm not sitting in a dark room or fucking, tweeting about stupid documentaries, but I understand the pushback of like, fuck you,
Yeah. It's why, my biggest mistake in terms of like identifying a quality I liked in a guy and then going all in on the guy was believing Jay Cutler was a great player. And in hindsight, it was just because I loved I loved how spiteful he was sometimes. I appreciated that about him. Like I was telling somebody, a buddy of mine yesterday, like I read the Joe Montana Wright Thompson article is phenomenal. I haven't finished it yet because it's really long. But it's really good. And Joe is sometimes very bitter. Like even his wife in it says like, yeah.
I thought she said he's never been happier.
Well, he's very happy.
I saw a video of
it's a really good article because just sometimes Joe, like his wife is like, there's 3 Joes. This is what Jennifer says. And I can tell the Joe that's like going to a dark place. I'm like, hey man, come back. He starts thinking about, he should have had 2 more Super Bowls, or Tom Brady didn't play in his era and Tom isn't the GOAT, and all this kind of stuff. And I was telling a buddy last night, like I appreciate for a guy that has it all that this is what, like when McCaffrey said, I hope both teams lose. Like I appreciate a guy who like life is good, but there's just still some shit that gets him going. Like I appreciate that, even if it's imperfect, we're all imperfect. And no matter how much money or how much fame or whatever, Joe's still pissed about something that really offended him. And you'd like to say, let it go, move on with your life. That's the good way to do it. But it's very human to be like, no, I'm not going to let that one go.
And there's a balance, right? Like you ultimately, like Tom Brady, clearly he told Coward in the interview, basically like, did you ever start, like once you started becoming the GOAT, everyone's calling you that, probably about within the last 5 years, how that impacted whatever your career and your work ethic and everything. He's like, well, there was still enough negativity. Not that I necessarily needed it, but it doesn't hurt, when you read some of this stuff. But he could always balance it. Like Tom never feels like a negative Nancy. Like some of the, like Greg Norman, for example, historically, like vengeful, this whole thing with Liv, like has never gotten over it. Like there's a point where it's like, do you need to do this? Like your life's clearly like, when do you tap out? And I've known some people that like their parents are successful and you just get to the point, like, what's the age where it's like, we've made it, man. It's okay. And I think it's just the way you're wired, and it's been like that. Like I'm not changing. You're not changing, like how I'm at 38 in terms of like the way my brain is wired and the way I react to certain things is probably never going to change till the day I'm buried.
Also, if you, when you succeed, you're like, this is what got me to that. So why would I change that now? And that's where the transition from, especially pro athletics, where there's a physical nature to the game, right? One thing was when you remember the Peacock Montana doc, like his kids didn't realize like how hard he had to work to be the quarterback in Notre Dame. Like that his high school coach was benching him. Didn't like him. The high school coach didn't like him because his dad was like in his ear, Joe's dad. High school coach would like bench him. High school coach said like no one from the hometown likes him. Gave an interview one time where he said that. And Joe actually made up with him. But
Remember that clip like at the father-son when Charlie's like, I didn't know my dad could still play this good. And Tiger's like, fuck you. You know, like who are you? And you just get to the point where you start being removed for so long. Like Tiger's still 45. Joe Montana's 66. So he is so far. You and I, we're closer to 40 than we are 30. And I do not remember one Joe Montana real pass. So think about all the people younger than us. And in his mind, he's going, are you fucking kidding me? You know, okay, let's Tom Brady. He might have eclipsed me. But I'm arguing with every other quarterback to ever play this game that it's me. You know, all you 28-year-olds blowing Rodgers, Manning. I'm Joe freaking Montana.
Yeah.
You know, and there would be until you die. I don't care who you could never be like. Even John Elway probably walks around like, I don't know if are enough people talking about me. Like,
probably not. But I
throw on some YouTube clips.
Yeah. I think there's probably some like you get, even though it looks 100% angry, there's some pleasure in being able to take that form and that mindset.
Also, like one thing about Joe that like there might be an element of Elway, like, yeah, they never thought about benching me. Like I just quit after I won.
Yeah, they didn't run him out. He ran out on top, right, as a Bronco.
And it's like Joe, I was always a starter. Like Joe did his career. If we just go through the top like 10 guys, they were trying to replace him like since the late 80s.
6 years Steve Young was there.
So it's like, you know,
and Walsh had promised him he was about to be the starter, and then Joe just wouldn't die.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I just feel if I had accomplished the peak of the height of like a Montana, when I got into my 60s, I probably would. I just want to remind some people, like, let's throw out another documentary and let's put it on ABC. Did I put it behind a paywall?
Yeah, that's kind of what's happened where Joe's gotten back kind of in the spotlight.
Well, Michael did that, right? With the documentary, he's like, green light it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Let's show these motherfuckers.
Just a little quick reminder. Yeah. Are the 49ers sore losers, John? You mentioned Jeff Schwartz. He texted us some quotes yesterday. I've had a couple different buddies. One texted me the other day after Ayuk. One texted me this morning. Just football fans. Like one guy today was like, why won't Debo stop talking? They're doing interviews. Obviously, that's a part of it. Christian McCaffrey said earlier this week, it sucks. I wish we would have had a healthy quarterback. It just feels like something was stolen from you. I hope both teams lose. I watched it. He wasn't saying the win was stolen. He was saying the opportunity was stolen. But still, Debo Samuel, multiple interviews. Here's a little sampling of some of the things Debo said at Radio Row. We knew when we lost both QBs, what are we going to do? I wish we'd taken one more QB into the game, and it probably would have been a different outcome. So Debo thinks with a third quarterback, they could have won the game. He also said, in the nicest way,
Debo, who?
Like, those two thoughts actually were not connected. He just thinks they could
put it on your pro personnel hat. Could you give me a name? Because I saw that quote. I was like, who's the third guy, Debo?
Debo said, in the nicest way, we didn't really get to see how good the Eagles defense was, if that makes sense. We had them schemed up and we had them dialed up. He went on to say in another interview, we were going to attack their DBs all game long. They're quick to trigger on certain stuff that they see on film. So we had stuff out of what we know that we knew they would bite on. And then he went into some specifics. So are the 49ers sore losers?
I think they're getting lumped. I talked to Schwartz last night. Like, I think people that think that feel like they're speaking like this, and the game was a missed field goal at the end. Remember when the Bears kicker clanked it and then went on Good Morning America like the next day? Like how, you know, there's a level of like, you lose a fair and square game. I don't think they would be talking like this. They would be mad that I just think this is the most unique thing we've ever seen. Debo said that not just Kyle, who's 43, his father, who's 75, told him, yeah, I've never seen anything like that. Now, if you wanted to push back and point the finger at the Shanahan family, we can do some of that on the way that all transpired. I just like one apology. But I don't view this as just a normal loss. Now, that does not, I also think that they're not saying like we would have won. If they said that, I'd be like, yeah, don't. They're just saying we just wanted a fair shot. Because I think they think that their game plan was fucking sweet. That's what they believe. And Debo mentioned that. I saw McCaffrey mention that. Defensively, clearly they had I talked to a buddy on the Eagles that was like, yeah, they had a pretty like dropping those guys back. It was the opposite. Remember when they got blown out by the Chiefs? It's like, why do they keep running up the field? They stopped. They did the opposite of that, and it was throwing the Eagles off. And it was 7-7. I saw Portnoy was like, I'd be bitter. Like the game was tight. This wasn't like everyone acting, 31-7. Yeah, I mean, it became that when no one could throw, and Josh Johnson dropped a fucking fumble. But it was 7-7, like not that far away from halftime.
Yeah, dropped a snap, fumbled a snap.
Now it was 14-7. Like the Eagles had scored. The Eagles are good. The other thing is no one's acting like the Eagle people. To me, the players are not talking like the Eagles weren't some legit foe. They were like, they're a legit foe. We were a legit foe. We just wanted our shot, and we didn't get it.
Yeah. So
I get how it sounds like, but I actually don't, because it's not. They're not acting like this is a normal loss.
I do get how it sounds, but because it has veered a little close to we were gonna win. Like Debo and Ayuk think like they were gonna win because they think the game, in their minds, the game didn't get played, and
they hadn't lost in 13 games.
Yeah, going into the game, they thought they were gonna win, and in their minds, the game didn't get played. Here's what I would say, and what I have said to people: it's been a week and a half. Like, to me, you're allowed to still be wearing it emotionally a week and a half later. The 49ers are in mourning, and that's allowed. I do think big picture, they better not spend their whole offseason thinking they were just unlucky, though. Like, I don't think it'd be healthy for them to, by the time we get to next season, they're still walking around thinking they should have won the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a good way to process it either. Like, big games, and the Niners are playing a bunch of them, come down to one or two big plays that we remember. Last year, the NFC Championship game, Kwaski Tart not intercepting a ball. The Super Bowl against the Chiefs, a missed throw to Emmanuel Sanders, and a big throw made by the Chiefs. The NFC title game that they just played in actually was no different, in the sense that it just happened that the one big play happened in the first quarter instead of the fourth quarter. But they ran the play. They called the play. They ran it poorly, and it failed, which is exactly what happened when they ran the ball to threw the ball to Emmanuel Mosley. They called the play. They ran the play. They failed on the play. They lost the game. It just so happened that the big play this time was early, not late. But this wasn't like they tried to kick a game-winning field goal. It hit Jerry Jones's big board, and they had to re-kick it, and then they missed it. Like, they ran a play, a legal play. Nobody cheated. Nobody got away with a penalty. And the play they ran failed because they failed. So I got no problem with anything they've said. To me, it's not sore loser category. But I think it's a little dangerous to spend your whole offseason thinking like we got screwed. Maybe you lost and you should have had. I hope they don't process it as like, yeah, we should have won the Super Bowl. And then, oh, well, we're unlucky. Woe is me. Maybe it can be a motivating factor.
But to me, though, this is, you're paying a head coach $12 to $15 million. Like, by the time training camp comes, it's on him to kind of set the message and just restart it. So, like, I am putting that on the coach. Like, ultimately, it's coach player. Like, you're kind of led by the message, and Kyle's good at that. Like, I'm fine, or like I'm pretty confident that he'll be able to, get that. They also play the Eagles next year.
That's good.
I think it's in San Francisco too, or Santa Clara or whatever. But
yeah, that's fine. I got no problem with it. That's just my warning. And I think you're probably right, but that would be my warning. Like, use it as motivation that you feel like you should have won the Super Bowl, not an excuse.
I think here's the thing though, and this is a natural, just part of the sport is, and Bosa talked about this after, like, what sucked is like, this team's never going to be this team again.
Yeah.
Right. In baseball, you could roll back a roster, like have a loss in the NLCS, and 24 of the 25 guys are back on your squad. Like in football, there's at minimum 25, 30%. And we've already seen the list of free agents, and there's just a natural, implementation of guys that you draft. I got 75 third-round picks and some random undrafted free agents, and then who knows, maybe Danny Gray emerged. Like, you just get new elements of the team every year, right? Now, your core guys are the core guys, and those you're going to win the Super Bowl or not, because ultimately, right, Trent, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, Fred, like Armstead, like that you're going to go as they go. But Omenahu is now Drake Jackson, Elijah Mitchell. Maybe he's just never anything. And Ty Davis Price emerges. Maybe they trade Juwan Jennings for something and Danny Graham. Or, it's just that's
D'Amico Ryans is gone.
Maybe they fucking one of their third-round picks. They take Grammatica's son. He's their new kicker. You just have all these. It's just a natural.
Wait, is there a Grammatica son?
No, that'd be cool. Oh. I just I didn't know. I tried to make a funny joke with the kicker, but that's just the only thing. But like, there's a chance like Robbie Gould's not there. Like there are just core elements like Jimmy Ward. Like they were just. Deshaun Gibson said that Hufanga is like his favorite human alive. Like, does that mean you're just going to resign for $1 million? You see that quote?
No, I didn't.
So I think they'll be fine. Ultimately, they're going to win and lose because of health, right? When they're healthy, clearly they are a Super Bowl contender. Like that information's set. When they're healthy, their organization now finding new guys. Like they now have proven a couple straight years of just being able to plug holes, random guys. Obviously, there's a level of like 19's defensive line's better in this one, but still, like this one's more than good enough, right? They can just find part of like the pass rushers that you would like to be a little bit better opposite. They're kind of random, Arden Keys and trading for Omenahus, and like
right.
they're getting the scrap heap,
And they've shown that it works.
Yeah, they've had a really high level to me 2-year run. From a team building personnel making moves. Like if they were a baseball operation, they'd be like, this fucking operation is rolling. Say what you want about the Dodgers. Listen, I talked to the guy, Don Martin, who he's in charge of Fox Sports now, but like one of his main stations is the main LA one with Petros and whatever that has the Dodgers.
Money.
And we were just talking that like, it sucks they never win the World Series, but they're such a cash cow for the 162 games now. They're so relevant on their inventory, and baseball is unique that way. Like, yeah, we'd love them to win the World Series, but if they get bounced in the, that game of 5, those 162 games of winning 110 of them every year is so valuable. And it's why everyone around the sport goes, Dodgers a high-level operation, right? Baseball, there's an element of luck to win it, but like this year, are the Dodgers not going to win 105? What's their over-under? If it's not over 100, that to me is crazy. Like it's going to be like really high.
Wasn't it massive? Remember last year? Wasn't it like 111 or something crazy?
Probably. I mean, which they would have got over. Like the Niners, I'm very confident the Niners are a playoff team next year. Now, to me, winning there's elements of who you're playing and the health.
Yeah. In a weird way, if you almost win it a lot, it still makes you a great story, right? The Dodgers are still a great story. In some ways, they're a better story in the big picture if they're not winning it because everyone roots against, everyone else's fans root against them, but they're in the games, and it's kind of they're a good character they're a main character.
But here's what also the 49ers have. Like they just haven't got it yet, and I think Joe Burrow has this. It honestly speaks to me of like Kelsey, Chris Jones, and Mahomes. Like those guys already won one, and every year it feels like they're just fucking clawing for another one. Like they're addicted to getting that other one.
To Donna Kelsey. Is it Donna?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she's very funny.
Did she ever get the nod to flip the coin, or that's not?
I don't know what happened there. She actually
doesn't feel like that's happening.
They spent a lot of time on who are you rooting for, and she wouldn't answer, and she was like, "Well, that's like saying." If me and Dad were out on a boat and one of us was drowning and you had to save one, who would you save? And they're both like, we'd save you. We'd save Mom. Sorry, Dad. They were both like hockey players growing up.
Yeah, I think they were some troublemakers.
They were. I mean, they are. Anyway, good pod. But
I knew that pod would be successful.
Oh, but the point is like good call. The point is it was like the fact that
before I even knew it was an option.
The fact that they're both already won a championship makes it easier for everybody to enjoy, as opposed to if only one of them had won and the other one hasn't won. It feels like for both of them, it's really easy to be in the moment because they've already got that monkey off their back. Now it's about gravy.
Whatever picture they get at the end of the game, that's one, like when they embrace.
Yeah.
You blow that thing up and you put that in both their homes, right? Yeah. To me, that's going to be whoever can get that, like the AP photographer. I think that has an opportunity, especially if it's an all-time game, to be like an iconic NFL pick of their embrace. Don't you think?
Yeah. Kelsey calls her mommy still. And Jason's
Travis?
or Travis, yeah. And Jason was like, Mom, are you going to be on the field after the game? She's like, well, that depends who wins. Travis got me field passes. You didn't get me field passes. So if the Chiefs win, I will be on the field. Very good. Anyway, George Kittle made it perfectly clear today, John, on Von Miller's podcast, how the 49ers locker room feels. He was very, I think, sympathetic to Trey Lance's plight. He said Trey hasn't really gotten a shot. He got a monsoon game, and then he got hurt. But Kittle said, with Brock, our offense has been operating at the highest level it's operated since probably 2019. And then he said twice, it's Brock's job to lose.
Yeah, which, listen, he's healthy. He's the starting quarterback come training camp. I think the only question is one angle that, assuming Brock's ready to go when training camp starts, is there even like a rep split? Like, is it like a 3-1, or is it just 100% Brock and he's just the number twos? I mean, that's a long way to go because he's going to get all the reps.
Yeah.
Now, granted, OTAs are kind of a joke. And I think it's pretty clear, like, Debo's not going to be there, right? Trent won't be there. Ayuk probably will be, but McCaffrey, I would say, is probably 50-50.
I'll make a prediction. They split reps, and part of it is Shanahan, who claimed that after 6 months, he was really happy because Purdy will be full go. They'll say, we're taking it a little easy with Brock's shoulder. And it's an easy way to split the reps. And even if he's 100%, you might do it anyway. But
one thing
doesn't split reps. It's not how it works.
No. I think it'll be very whatever field work they get with the team environment and whoever's there will be like because clearly Trey last year was a little hit or miss, right? I think
practice, you're saying?
You and I and most people tried to be optimistic with it, but it was not like really crisp. And regardless what anyone on the outside said, all that mattered was internally they were nervous. Where can he just get to a point where it's like, God, he's a lot better than he looked last year, if that's the point. Because if it's the same, then I think they immediately just go to the 1-2 formula where it's all whenever he's fully ready to go, right? If it's the same situation as last year, they would just go to the 1-2 formula if he's healthy. If he's gotten better, like, let's just see it compete, which we talked about. I don't think if the ball is flying all over the place that he's just getting reps. Once like training camp starts with Debo and Ayuk, assuming one guy's elbow can, maintain.
I think when we talk about compete for Trey, it's not in a 50-50 or you can go take Brock's job as the starter. I think it means compete to me means just put yourself in position. Even Brock said, I watched his interview with our guy Mike Yam on NFL Network, or even Trey said, he said Brock played too well to not have a spot. Now, did he mean the starting spot? I mean, he didn't really specify that.
Shout out to Mike Yam. I mean, he plays a big role. I see him all the time on NFL Network.
Yeah,
crushing it.
But even I think that Kittle quote is representative. Like, if you're Kyle, the starting quarterback job is so representative of team leadership. Like, the quarterbacks are almost required to be a leader, whether they're a leader or not, which leads to some guys pretending to be leaders, which is pretty transparent. But the quarterback position is just so different than every other. Steve Young had a good quote in the Wright Thompson article about Joe Montana, in which he said, if you get the 10 best quarterbacks in a room together, everyone's going to get kind of itchy about, like, how do we compete? How do we prove who is the best guy in this group? And it reminded me of my buddy, Evan, who played in the NFL, who's always told me, like, quarterbacks are just like, they're different because they think everybody is looking at them all the time, even when people aren't. He always compares them to, like, the pretty girl in the group. They just always think it, like, centers around them because a lot of this stuff does act. They're so used to it for years. Like, you are placed in the center of the room and you are made a leader before you've ever done anything. That's just the way of the position. But Brock's done something here. Brock's been a leader and Brock's been a winner. And I just don't think Kyle can look into the eyes of his 9-man captain council and split reps between the two quarterbacks. I just don't think he can do it.
Well, I'd expect next year, assuming health, Brock Purdy to be a team captain, wouldn't you?
I would.
The way these guys talk about him.
Yeah.
And Trey, was thrust into it, and he's talked about it. I think I actually think he probably grew a lot this year of just emotional. I mean, he came from a small school. He got handed $35 million. And, I would say historically, like he was a unique prospect, but it's quarterback inflation, right? Like, should gas cost $7.50? Probably not, right? Should Trey Lance have been the number 3 pick? Based on like recent memory of like you had a draft historically in the draft, like the 90s, the guy probably goes in like the 3rd round, right? So it's just, there's an element of, it's just pretty crazy what gets thrown upon you these days. And rightfully so. I mean, it's just part of because if he does turn out to be it, it's well worth it. But as we've seen, like most guys do not, because it's very difficult to begin with, even if you are prepared. It's very hard. And I don't know if the money necessarily like changes who you are, and it feels like from a character standpoint they have no issue. But we're all human beings, right? You're probably in your head, you like get all this money guaranteed. You're just like, I'm the quarterback, but then you weren't the quarterback. It's just, it's been a weird situation.
Yeah.
And there's no way to avoid it. Like, I think their mindset was right on all these moves, whether the actual players were the right picks or not, time will tell. But it's just, until you just get a guy, like it was weird with Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz for that first year, right? Things are weird until Jalen's our guy. Now, do you know what's not weird? The Jalen Hurts Gardner Minshew relationship. Like, it's just the hierarchy set. Because the 49ers, I think, but until like
there can't be an argument, right?
Well, he's just clearly the starter. Like, there's just the Niners, and even going into next year, I mean, they're going to be one of the biggest conversations in the league. Their quarterback hierarchy.
Yeah.
And we're probably even a year away. Even if Brock's playing, like, he's going to have to establish that he can play the entire year healthy. Can he continue to play at a high level? Like, is he going to just throw 32 touchdowns? Like, it's just ultimately Jalen went from like, this year that they still got some picks. Like, could they take a guy to like, he's in the MVP conversation. So Jalen coming into this year, like, you would argue the Eagles hierarchy coming into this year before week 1 of 2022, their hierarchy big picture was not set. And he has just validated it, like, kind of, hey guys, I'm the fucking quarterback here. And you listen, one thing I've always seen is those Kelsey clips of him like Jason Kelsey, who pretty clear, like, if Jason Kelsey wanted to be like a GM in the league, I mean, hell, he helps the Eagles evaluate offensive linemen. So it's like he loves the guy. And he's at a front row seat of like high level guys that probably overachieve, like a Foles, an underachieving in a weird way Carson Wentz, to like Michael Vick. Like, he's seen it all. And it's like, this is the dude, man. Now, it doesn't mean he doesn't have some flaws or whatever. Most guys do. That's part of it, too. And I got to do a better job of this. Like, when you talk, most guys, like, Mahomes is an all-time outlier. Mahomes is even outlier relative to Joe Burrow. Like, Mahomes can do things that Joe can't physically, right, with his arm.
Yeah.
And obviously, Joe is still in that high tier. But, like, there's always going to be
made playoff mistakes. Even he is imperfect, right?
100%. I mean, Michael Jordan missed some shots. But I think, like, if you don't have Elway, Montana, or Marino, it doesn't mean that you can't have a really, really successful team and just operation, right? Like, it's not like those guys won the title or they just had the market. Like, they were the only people that could win 11 games every year. Like, you can be really, really successful.
Your margin is just small. Your margin for error is just smaller if you don't have one of those guys.
100%.
I do think, and I thought you and I did a separate video about this that didn't end up on the podcast feed on Wednesday, which you can go watch if you want. But I thought Trey handled himself really well doing the interviews Wednesday. He seems like he's got a good outlook and mindset on it. I think what Kittle said was really good. Like, one of my big picture thoughts this offseason is going to be, and it seems like they're on the right page. Like, I don't think it benefits anybody to think or talk about Trey like he can't become the 49ers starting quarterback one day. He's very young still. He's 22, 23 in May. As long as he's on their team, and he's going to be on their team, there's a real possibility that he becomes their quarterback by injury, if nothing else. And Brock Purdy's played half a football season. So I believe in Brock Purdy. Brock should be the starter, but let's see him truly take the reins of being a starting quarterback before we say Trey Lance can't be the 49ers quarterback again. And maybe it happens not because he's great in the Jalen Hurts situation. Maybe it happens just because the other options aren't. But it doesn't benefit them at all to give up on Trey publicly or privately, internally. Like, that's what I would tell all these guys just for the way they think. Like, guys, you might need Trey Lance again. The odds are actually good that you're going to need Trey Lance again. So I would
say it's pretty clear, though, they're not giving up on him in the sense of like no one's saying like he's got to go or
no. And it'd be crazy if they did say that, but I don't think it's healthy for them to even to think of him as anything other than the guy that might be starting a big game for them in 2023. That might happen.
I do think he survived. Like, let's just say Brock Purdy doesn't get injured. They beat the Eagles and they win the Super Bowl. I think there's probably a much greater opportunity. You basically just cook the books for him and you trade Trey Lance this offseason just to like go all in on Brock and then bring a veteran and do it. But that completely changed when the injury happened.
Yeah. You could also treat it the way the Packers have with Jordan Love, or, Jordan might be their starter, but hey, whatever. He's not that expensive. Let's keep him around. Maybe we can turn him into he is our guy and he's our backup quarterback right now. Like, it could be worse, a backup quarterback.
Like, let's just say, and again, this sounds like sour grapes too, because it's not an option, but hypothetically, they had beat the Eagles and then they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Would you be behind them trading Trey Lance just to like make it easier on Purdy? What?
For 5 second-round picks?
Which in the NBA, that's like 6 7s.
Yeah, I'd be open to it, but to me, it would still be like, well, you're telling me that Trey Lance really helped Brock this year? Like, Trey was a really good teammate? Right? Trey's talented. He is expensive for a backup quarterback if he's your backup quarterback. But I wouldn't just, like, what are my other options here? Okay, is Andy Dalton would that be a better option? Would McCoy be a better option? I would still, if that was the situation and you tell me Trey was a great teammate and helped Brock, I'd be inclined to keep him around.
Yeah. I mean,
unless you told me you're getting a second-round pick for him, then I would.
I guess the difference, you remember, like when Belichick cut Cam to sign, when Mac won the job, there's different elements when they're both young guys and they both like each other. Like, ultimately, one guy's super famous. There are just variables here that don't exist.
He's just so young. I would just be open to the possibility that he surprises you.
Yeah.
Like,
ultimately, the Warriors traded James Wiseman. Clearly, they don't think he's very good, but there's like next year he's going to make $12 million, right? And relative to their tax bill, it was really high. It was like financially, it made 0 sense. Like, financially, it makes 0 sense to get rid of Trey. If they had won the Super Bowl, if they hadn't won the Super Bowl, like where they're sitting now, like, he's cheap. They've already paid the bonus, right? Like, that money on the cap, like that's hitting the cap no matter what. So it actually, unless someone blows you away with a pick, it's like, well, fuck, they gave us 2 seconds. If you do the math, we're actually we net out, especially if we hit on one of the two guys, we might actually make money in this transaction. That is not the case. It would only be a negative if we get rid of this guy because we've already paid the money. And when you just, the way they look at it, you just combine him and Brock's salary. It's like our quarterback room is under $10 million, right?
Yeah. They'd be better off if there was some world where, like, they could send Trey to the G League and have him get a bunch of snaps,
What I just find fascinating, and his name's going to come up, a shitload in the next month, is I don't see how you could pay Jimmy Garoppolo and feel good about him playing all season long. Given because you got to pay him, like, even if the number was $20 million, like that's a really, really expensive bridge quarterback. Like, sometimes, you see, like, down in Old Town Scottsdale, there are these nice condos. Well, the penthouse condo at this place is really expensive. It's like downtown San Francisco, that one Joe Montana had that kind of leaned to the side. It's like, well, if I'm downtown Old Town Scottsdale or in the marina or in fucking Manhattan, there are certain areas I don't mind paying a premium for the condo. But, like, there are certain areas, like, I'm sorry, this is way overpriced. Like, ultimately, I know Jimmy Garoppolo is not, like, premium real estate. So the price, to me, has to factor in. He is going to be the most just fascinating. I'm going to be able to, you could convince me of a lot of different angles with what's his contract? Like, if you told me he got like 1 year, 14 million, but incentives can get it to 30, be like, that's probably smart. If you tell me someone gives him like 2 years, 45 million, I'm like, that's kind of insane.
Quarterback market is like the last drops of gas in the Mojave Desert.
But here's the thing, though, Guy. It's pretty consistent when you're paying like the Glennons. I know Jimmy's better than that, but like in that stratosphere, it kind of is what it is. Like you can't, like, the best case scenario probably isn't even that great.
Yeah. But it's the old line. It's Ben Affleck's old line from the movie Argo, where they're trying to get a bunch of hostages out of Iran, him and Bryan Cranston, and they take this idea to like bicycle a bunch of people over the border in the middle of winter. And they're like, is this the best idea you have? And Ben Affleck goes, sir, of all of our bad ideas, this is by far the best idea. And I think that's kind of the quarterback market. It's like, well, okay, let's say we don't spend 45 on Jimmy Garoppolo. Who's our quarterback then? Andy Dalton? Like, I've seen, say what you want, I've seen Jimmy in the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but our team's not as good as the Niners, whoever I am.
Yeah, I mean, but you might be maybe think you can get there if you're, let's say it's Miami. And Mike McDaniel's just like, I just know this guy like the back of my hand. And
I got two guys that at any moment could get carted off the field.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to spend on your third stringer too. But
well, if I told you Jimmy Garoppolo went to Miami, what would the over-under you put on the quarterbacks carted off the field at? If I gave you 0.5, are you taking the over?
Yeah, so you're saying Tua still is their quarterback?
Or just whatever. Just those are their two quarterbacks. They'll compete, and they're both going to end up playing. Like, is a cart coming out from one of the two of them? A cart.
Yeah, of course it is. I hate to say it, but absolutely it is. Right?
How does Tua play next year without getting a concussion?
Well, part of me doesn't. I don't know. Is he going to play?
Fuck yeah, he's going to play. Like, the media wants him to quit and retire. He does not.
Yeah.
And what's Miami? They'll roll him out there.
Sure, they're paying him.
Yeah, so the people that always want these people, especially with concussions, to stop, that's great. You could, but that individual does not agree with you. Like, he's going to keep playing. That's a fact.
But we've seen so many Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Montana careers end by concussion.
But like, should the NFL just have like 4 concussions? Your career's over. Like, I think you would.
It's a personal choice.
Well, I know, but there's no right or wrong answer on it. You just know that the players will not stop.
Yeah.
And the teams just roll. Like, is it on the team? I mean, it's like, well, he knows the risk.
James Wiseman played in 25% of the Warriors games played since he got drafted. He played in 60 of the 233 games that the Warriors played. Trey Lance has played in 8 in 2 years. So, like, this was year 3. For those who Wiseman got traded for a 5th for 5 seconds, which I did not know was possible. And then the Warriors traded all 5 seconds to the Trailblazers for Gary Payton II, who was just on their team. Incredible NBA trade. Kyrie got traded. Durant got traded. For that. Russ got traded. D'Lo got sent back to the Lakers, who hated him.
He got traded last night at like 11:30 at night.
I know.
I got in this car. I'm waiting for my Uber, and there are like 3 or 4 people like, Kevin Durant. I'm like, what? Check. Obviously gets traded to the Suns. Get in the car. Dude driving, younger guy, big Suns fan. And I'm like, bro, Kevin Durant just got traded. Maria doesn't care. He's like, tell me they didn't put Bridges in the trade. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even know the trade. So I just went and I told him. He's like, no. But, it's just one of those.
Very interested in the NBA season last night because now it's like, to me, the story, I don't know what your number one.
He is hurt, Guy.
My number one storyline is Kevin Durant. Like, if the Suns don't win the championship, it's going to feel messy, right?
He's injured. It's crazy. He hasn't played in forever. Like, I think this is the problem with the NBA.
Still calling the shots, though.
We just talk about it. He's literally been hurt. We
Could
haven't
he get
seen
healthy
him in a
suddenly?
long time. Could what?
Could he get healthy suddenly now that he's been traded?
But I mean, he legitimately didn't the guy fall into his knee or something? Didn't he have a Curry? I think he's been out with a knee for like a month.
My favorite was the quotes of Kyrie. Like, I knew very early in the first year, like, this wasn't going to work out. And everyone's like, Kyrie, you were just trying to get an extension 4 days ago.
Guy, he said, I did my part. I left them in 4th place.
We're number 4. We're number 4.
I think it's there is never
Will Ferrell's movie.
I think it happens a lot in like college football and college basketball for like the 24/7 diehards that follow like this is an all-time recruiting class, and then you look back 2 years in the team, like what just happened with A&M? Like it was literally the greatest recruiting class ever, and they won like 2 games. Like that it happens in college sports all the time because how overrated stars can be. Guy, they had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, and a year later, none of them were on the team. And they're all at different destinations, you know. It's an all-time like. A lot of people are like, yeah, I don't know if this thing's gonna work, and then you're like, oh, they're so good, it's basketball.
I remember watching them, and I was like, they are. Remember, I told you, I'm like, these guys are. I watched a game with all 3 of them. I'm like, these guys are winning the championship, man. They did not.
Like a month ago, before Kevin got hurt, they had been 17-2 in like 19 games leading up to Kevin Durant. They were 17-2, like it was rolling with just Kevin and Kyrie. What's your take on Kyrie? You know, the documentary. So they make him do all the tasks, right, to come back.
Yeah, what
clearly one of them.
Did he do any like
meet
or anything?
Yeah, some meet with a rabbi.
Like didn't Deshaun Jackson go to, or did he just say he was going to do it?
Yeah, he was supposed to meet Edelman in Israel or something. I don't know if he ever did. The agency that I deal with through the volume that runs it, it's called Silver Tribe. Is the name of the. What do you think of that?
Sounds like media, Jews controlling the media.
Yeah, it's a strong, obviously a lot of Jewish people, you know, led by Michael Klein, who left CAA to start it. And I was asking him last night how he thought of the deal. Obviously, I was like, yeah, I know where the tribe comes from, but he had a long story. But Kyrie deleted the post of the apology. I guess in his first Maverick practice, it started going viral that he had deleted like his long post. Like, I'm really sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first question he got asked as a member of the Mavericks after practice. Like, why'd you delete the post?
Yeah.
Basically.
Like, what did he say?
I stand by my apology. So I'm not taking that back, but I delete a lot of posts. Clearly he never wanted to post it. I don't know. It's just those guys, man. I truly believe the NBA has jumped the shark with the whole, like, it's kind of, and it's the LeBron generation. In fairness to him, he's never demanded a trade. Like, he's only left when he's been a free agent. Like, he has never done any of this stuff at all. But everyone's kind of followed his lead, but done it like 10 times worse of like demanding. Didn't Kevin Durant just sign a 5-year, like $250 million contract last year? Part of like the Suns, I didn't quite realize this. He's under contract for the next 4 years. Like, they just have Kevin Durant now on their team.
Yeah. Yeah. People love the trade deadline as a story and being dramatic until you realize your best players can't get traded every year and have it keep mattering, or every other year, or change teams nonstop, and just, it feels crazy and wild in the moment, but it does cheapen your season and your sport.
Well, I think people often argue, like, historically in the NBA or baseball too, I mean, it happens in football, guys end up on 3 or 4 teams. It typically, to me, happens like a star player at the end of their career. Like Scottie Pippen goes to a couple places, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's been like in the prime of his career for 10 years. He's been on like 3 different teams. Now he's going to his 4th. Like, what are we doing here? Can you guys... I don't know, man. It's just,
I think
it can't be good.
The illusion of players playing for their team and their fans is still valuable, even though everybody kind of knows that's not exactly how it works. That, like, most guys aren't going like, I wake up every day to do this for the faithful. Like, we get that that's kind of not every, I think most fans kind of get it, but that's how you create a connection. Fans, teams. 8-year-olds like players, whatever, but the people that spend the money root for teams, and they have to have a connection to the team. And, when
is Deebo Samuel going to play for another team in his career? 100%, right? But for like 3 or 4 in the peak of his powers, he's going to be a 49er.
Right.
And when you see Deebo Samuel as a 49er fan, you go, that's my fucking guy. When I'm a Chiefs fan, whether I'm 10 years old or whether I'm 30, it's like Travis Kelce's my guy. And he's been my guy. And this is what football has that basketball has definitely lost. When we were kids, it did feel like guys, the star players, took pride in their team. Obviously, they got paid a lot of money, but like Michael Jordan, the Bulls, David Robinson, and the Spurs. It's just like they're the two guys in Utah, Gary Payton and the Sonics. Like, it was just like, this is my squad. Reggie Miller and the Pacers. And that's how football feels. Like Travis Kelce and Mahomes and Chris Jones are fucking the Chiefs, It just, in Seattle for a long time had like Russell, and then, some of like they just had the core group of guys. The 49ers, their core group of guys. The Rams, their core group. Aaron Donald, like if I'm a Rams, Aaron Donald's been my guy. It just, and that's basketball has completely lost that.
Well, think about all the guys that fans.
I guess Zion Williams on the Pelicans in 2 years, probably not.
Best for the NBA if he's not. That's actually unique.
100%. But I just mean like
better if he's on the Knicks, I guess.
If you had to put over under on Zion teams, it's probably like 5.
Gammon says, sounded like Trey and Purdy learned more when Jimmy left for the rest of the season with an injury. They could be more involved in the QB room versus note taking.
I tried to ask Mike Silver last night. He was pretty intoxicated, and so we didn't really stay on topic. But he didn't think that the relation. He just because I was like,
John,
you guys hate each other. A lot of Davis talk, a lot of nostalgic about like North Davis, but It was more that kind of what we had talked about of just the situation this year when they brought it. It was just a little. It was a little NBA mercenary-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very actually NBA-ish.
When we saw Silver at Niners practice, it was a lot of Davis talk. Davis, California, where we're from.
Yeah, Davis just immediately, just
center of the world, John. Center of the world. Derek Carr, destined for the AFC South, visited the Saints, where, don't forget, I don't know if you've forgotten, Dennis, you know how many games Dennis Allen coached Derek Carr?
Well, the football got buried pretty early in that season, so I'm pretty sure it was 0-4.
You're correct. But here's what I think is relevant. They did not draft Derek Carr to be their starting quarterback, the Raiders, back in 2014. They signed Matt Schaub to a contract of $8 million guaranteed. It was a significant commitment to noodle-armed Matt Schaub at the time, whose arm somehow got stronger again when he left the Raiders. Not that strong, but...
Guy, I would have bet my life savings, which at the time in 14 was not very high, that Matt Schaub would have been out of the league the next year. I'm pretty sure he played for like 6 more seasons.
But no one else signed him to be their starting quarterback was the difference. That's what the Raiders did.
But he did somehow bank like $8 more million over the course.
But once upon a time, Dennis Allen made the decision not to go with Matt Schaub and to go with this rookie quarterback. So maybe there is some long-standing kind of desire there, some connection between Dennis and Derek. But anyway, that was the news of the last couple of days that Derek is visiting the Saints.
Wouldn't you say that Derek in a dome would make a lot of sense?
Yeah.
Derek in
I think would make sense.
I wonder if, part of the Saints just want to get aggressive just so they have him, because there does feel like some of those teams in the South, Tampa needs a quarterback. They have one quarterback on the roster, Kyle Trask. I would imagine Frank, religious guy, this is he's had a lot of like older veterans. Derek, to me, 32 years old or 31 years old, 33 years old is much more. You feel you get 4 or 5 years playing. I would be shocked if the Carolina Panthers weren't interested. Like, to me, if he does play this out where he's cool with like getting cut, I think all 3 of those teams are kind of bidding for his services. And when you factor in weather, I think they all kind of make some sense, don't you? Not cold places. If I was a betting man, I would throw like $1,000. If you told me he's cut, he ends up in the South.
Do you think there's any hesitation to play for the Texans, given what happened with Dave? Or is it 20 years ago and it doesn't matter anymore? Because to me, the only hesitation is, will the fans, A, you might just not like the organization, but B, you might be afraid of being unfairly criticized, as if like all of the David Carr criticism, you pick up where that left off. But I think the D'Amico era actually makes it a pretty fresh start if Derek were to go there. The problem is they're just not set up to be a great team, a good team right now, whereas the Saints actually, I think you'd be better off going there. from a just let's try and win in 2023 standpoint.
But haven't we seen enough of what the Texans had the number 2 overall pick? When Andy got the job with the Chiefs, they had the number 1 overall pick. Like, couldn't you just say if he had free agency, we give him 3 years, $60 million, 40 guaranteed, and we just if they instead of the Houston Texans, like they were in the same situation, but were the Arizona Cardinals, wouldn't you be like, I bet they'd be aggressive to try to get Derek? No one wants to suck in the NFL.
Yeah. So we're listing a lot of reasons for him not to accept any trade and just be a free agent and let these teams try and figure it out with him.
Their family is, I would say uniquely close, the brothers, just given that they all share the same, like him and his brother play football in the NFL. It's like one thing, all of our families can be relatively close, but my brother's a farmer. Like I'm a podcaster, you do this, your sister does this, your one brother's in finance. When you're both like, you do share a commonality that like, that's got to strengthen the bond to kind of another level. Like, we both played in the NFL at quarterback.
I wonder if we asked Derek, are your memories of Houston good or bad? Tough for his brother, but it had to be an awesome time for him, right? Running around playing catch with Andre Johnson.
When I got hired in Fresno, they had just moved back to Bakersfield. I remember, do you remember when Derek committed to Jim McElwain? I'm pretty sure he was still playing like his sophomore year in Texas.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't think he played all 3 years at Bakersfield Christian. If I remember correctly, it might have just been a senior year, but at most his junior and senior year. So the family moved out there. But like you said, what does D'Amico and Nick Caserio have to do with 04 with the Texans, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question would just be how did you? It's the son of the owner, right? Cal McNair, Bob McNair was the owner then. So did you feel like it was a good organization? Anyway, we're listing a lot of teams that. Why would Derek allow the Raiders to trade him at this point?
Yeah, I would expect him. I mean, he's got 6
like
days.
The Saints can just be like, hey, bro, here's what we'll pay you if you don't make us trade a third for you or a fourth. Or are they? I don't even know. Are you getting a third at this point, given that he doesn't have to accept anything?
No.
You know what I mean? Like he can be like, guys, don't trade a third for me. If they trade a seventh, okay, a fifth. But not getting a third round pick for him at this point. Did you see the alert today? The Mets apparently have bought a Super Bowl commercial. Steve Cohen bought a Super Bowl commercial.
Like Meet the Mets?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I didn't see that.
I just saw I got an alert on my phone. Steve Cohen bought a Super Bowl commercial. $7 million. I mean, he's spent $7 million worse ways. I guarantee it.
Fuck yeah.
So
why not?
So that's the commercial I want to see. That's the commercial I want to see. This guy said I gave you guys $5 and you didn't even address my question, but he was laughy emoji. I will say, in regards to Jimmy Garoppolo and like Trey Lance learned more when Brock became the starter than when Jimmy was the starter. Some people are just Jimmy, you didn't need to. Not only did you not need to ask questions in the meeting room because it was about Jimmy, you probably slowed Jimmy down if you asked questions in the meeting room because Jimmy knew what he was doing.
I think Trey even kind of alluded to that. Like there wasn't much.
Said it.
Yeah.
I had no purpose when Jimmy was the starter. He didn't say that, but that's basically what he was saying.
Get out of here, kid.
Like, but yeah, I don't need your help.
And listen, there's a human element to this. Whether you're a quarterback, whether you're fucking watching this in your cubicle right now, or you're selling cars somewhere, when they bring the guy to replace you, we can be human beings. And hell, I can even actually kind of like you. There's a competitive angle to most ambitious, highly successful people, especially in industries like football, where it's like you're kind of always fighting for your gig. I wonder if this year, like Jimmy's like, I don't even need to fake it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like part of like, there's an element we all at point in time in our life have to fake certain things. And then you get to a point where some people just don't have to do that anymore. 99% of their life. Some of us have to do it 40% of our life. Some of us have to do it 90% of our life. Some of us have to do it close to zero. And I would say the moment Jimmy became the starter, what did he have to fake anything toward Trey? He knows it's a 1-year deal, right? You're not, I took a massive pay cut to do the same thing I did last year. It's very understandable how, like, yeah, we're all good. My teammates are cool with me, but I don't have to fake this relationship. Because if I
not even fake, I would say couldn't even be like, I'm not going the extra mile here. I got enough to do, right?
Yeah,
it could be that he likes him and treats him well, but I'm not going the extra mile.
No, I'm assuming he does. But what if there's an element of like, hey man, can is it cool if I every Tuesday get you the second down pressures? I'll do that and do something to do. Like, no, actually, I like doing that, bro. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, what if like, no, in my preparation, I'm good with that. I don't need you to do that.
Which is fine, right? This is how I work. This is how I got here. Now the question is, could it have helped you and you did it out of spite? That's where you kind of injure yourself if you're in that position, right? Where you don't actually like doing the second down pressures. You just say you do because you don't want to let that person help you. That's maturity. But
I'm cool with the era being over. Go your separate ways.
Again,
it was fun.
Again. Yeah. All right. On that note, we'll talk soon. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Later.
Adios.